Hi, everybody. This is your old pal, Uncle Hondo, your Las Vegas Raiders beat writer for Sports Illustrated and the host of the Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast. It's great to be with you today. I really, really appreciate it. I've had a couple people ask me, so I want to address this. They're like, Uncle Hondo, I don't get to watch the podcast much, so I don't get to hear it. Is there a way that you can do audio only? We already do. You can get the audio only of this if you check us out on Spotify or Apple. Check it out there. You can get it there. But I've had, I'm going to guess right around 8 people email asking for that because they're not in a place that they could watch. So there you go. And they're new listeners who started during the training camp coverage. So there you go. We got a lot to talk about today. I'm hoping to get to probably 6 to 8 of your emails. But before we do, I think we need to talk about how massive these next 7 or 8 days are for the Raiders because there's a lot coming. First of all, there is the Tuesday, the team will cut down to 53 players. And just because they cut down on Tuesday does not mean all of those 53 people make the final roster. Now, every other NFL team has to cut players. Now, let me tell you what happens each and every year. There are very, very good players that people are like, how did that guy get cut? And he got cut because of his salary and what he would cost against the cap, and the team just simply couldn't afford to have him. Now you need to get this a clear understanding. This started with Dave Ziegler, and let me tell you, uh, Tom Telesco was thrilled with it, and he has done a masterful job of this. The Raiders have 35 million right now in cap space, and we don't know who they're going to cut, but let's just say it stays roughly at 35 million. So they have money to go sign somebody. Let's say somebody super good gets cut because his team just couldn't afford him. Well, it makes a way for the Raiders to go in and drastically upgrade their roster. And I'm going to tell you right now, every single player on this team is subject to be cut. Probably, well, not cut, but I mean upgraded if possible. So unless you are a bona fide star, you're in danger of that. And the Raiders could do it. And let me tell you something, Tom Telesco would. I'm going to get into a lot on my podcast Tuesday night after they announce the cutdowns. You're going to understand why. I'll get into more of that on Tuesday night. But Tom Telesco would absolutely. So unless you can look at a player and goes, that guy is probably the best in the NFL, then that guy would be safe. But anyone else, subject to being cut. So when you understand the enormity of that, there still is, although I don't think it's probable, still is possible that they could absolutely go make an addition via trade. I think defensive line are places that they could do some upgrades, and offensive line is a place where they could do some upgrades. And I think corner is an absolute possibility. That was a possibility. All when you look at all of the off season, there was potential there. Sometimes value didn't meet what people wanted to spend, and the Raiders are extremely disciplined. Remember, they're not gamblers anymore; they're investors. So I think people need to really keep an eye out for this. Now, there may not be any guys cut, so the Raiders don't sign anybody. But the point is they don't know what the thinking process is. Now here's what happens through the process. Team A calls the Raiders. Hey, we got a really good corner here. Are you interested in trading for him? Absolutely. What do you want? We want this, this, and this. Whoa, that's too rich. And then Telesco goes and looks at their roster. Tom Telesco is one of a handful. There are some, but nowhere near all, that he has staff that have masterfully analyzed every team's roster. And they go and look and say, listen, they're way over the cap. They're asking a lot for that guy. No, they're going to end up having to cut him. And so there comes a point when you have to say, okay, the value doesn't equal cost there. There were a couple chances the Raiders could have made some trades. I alluded to one. Um, I alluded to one earlier this year, and the team's price was just way too high. So if that team were to end up cutting the player, then all of a sudden he's in play for the Raiders. And oh, by the way, you're sitting there with 35 million, and there's a lot of teams that aren't. Your players. Remember, this time of year, after the 53-man cut down, it is a matter of show me the money. Who's got the money? And a lot of teams don't. A lot of teams are not cap disciplined like the Raiders were. And it started under Dave Ziegler and continues under Tom Telesco. They're not. And my dad used to always say this, he'll get a kick out of this. But you know, when a little kid, some adults are this way, but when a little kid gets a little bit of money in their pocket and they just want to go to the store and spend it, you want to save? No. My dad used to say, got a hole in their pocket. And there are some teams that literally run NFL franchises that way. It's baffling to me. Baffling to me. And if you're wondering about Tom Telesco in the Chargers, they were not always that way. But some decisions, Tom would refute this because he's a gentleman. But I'm telling you, I believe it to be true because of the people who told me there were some decisions made by people over Tom Telesco's head with the Chargers. And if you're GM, you can probably figure out who's over his head. And so the team was certainly not in great cap space when he left. But that's not anything that I hold on him based on people who are very much aware of the situation. So again, there's other reasons why you want to be thrilled. Plus, what if Kuntz continues to play the way he does? All right, they're going to have to look at a extension. A lot of questions here, but these next 7 or 8 days are mammoth in Raider Nation. So keep your eyes out and remember something. Bill Belichick did this for decades, and sometimes fans underappreciate it. I don't think Raiders will because they're smart. Look at how good Greg Van Roten did last year. You can go plug a guy sometimes who's not a big name. You think, oh, great, we just signed this guy. I remember last year there was a lot of people frustrated when the Raiders signed Jack Jones. He turned out all right. So sometimes a role player, there were whole entire off seasons where all Bill Belichick signed was very affordable role players who all they did was win Super Bowls with or go to Super Bowls. So these are very big 7 and 8 days. We're going to keep you totally abreast of it. And I think that you're going to enjoy it. And again, defensive backfield in both lines is a big deal. All right, let's get into some of your emails now. I'd love to get into it. The first one comes us from Carmen. Carmen T. Carmen says, Hondo, I have an interesting question for you. I know that you were gifted a pair of Air Force Ones last year from a member of the organization. Can you tell us who? And I saw you at 2 preseason games and you weren't wearing them. I thought you said you were going to wear them to all the games. Carmen T. No, not going to tell you, but they were a gift. My wife went out and bought black socks. I learned my lesson. But you didn't see me wearing them at any of the preseason games. I will wear them for regular season and postseason games only. I'm not going to wear them out and about in the town. They're for Raiders postseason and regular season real games. Thank you for watching, Carmen. Next one comes to us from Derek B. Wants to know what's going on with the field. Boy, I got a lot of this. The field just looked terrible. Okay, not going to lie, it looked terrible. It was preseason. We've seen it not look good also during the regular season. First of all, you're trying to grow grass in the desert. In the desert. I agree with you that the field does not look great. I would, however, say to you, let's withhold judgment until regular season. I believe it's something that they're going to have corrected. At least that's what's been implied to me. But I agree the field looked terrible. I was told asking some players about it, it didn't play terrible, but it certainly looked terrible on national TV. There you go, Derek. Great question. Next one comes to us from Johnny S. Um, wants to know what areas I think AP needs to improve on. Johnny, I think this is a great question, and I'm certainly not afraid to be critical. But I have a rule, and maybe you don't know because we have grown so fast that maybe you're new. I give a lot of leeway to coaches their first 20 games, and I don't count AP intern. Um, he'd never even been a head coach before. So I'm going to wait and withhold judgment. There's nowhere to me that is uh, an absolute at this moment glaring weakness. There's one area that I am concerned about, but it's only a concern. And then a couple areas I have my eyes on. I think for a guy that's never been a head coach before, I've loved 95% of what he's done. I think he's going to be a long-term viable answer for the Raiders. He's going to make mistakes this year, and he's going to learn from them. I'm just telling you right now. And you need to remember that because if you want to go to social media, not just me, but anyone else, fire the guy, fire the guy. Well, if you're one of the people that wanted him, this is the cost that comes with a first-time head coach. But again, there's only one area that I would tell you that I'm really concerned about. We're going to keep an eye on that and we're just going to let that go for right now. Couple of areas that I'm not really worried about, but I'm watching closely. So we're going to see, but I think it's too early now because there may be areas that he's already addressing. So let's wait and let this play out a little bit. That's like years ago, my son Shane was not talking a lot. And I was greatly concerned about it. And I even asked the doctor about it. And they laughed at me. They laughed at me and go, relax. Pretty soon, he's never going to shut up. And so the concern was premature. He needed to grow into his age. I think that's going to be the same with AP. But there is one area of which I'm watching very closely. I don't think it would be fair for me to present it right now. Yeah, I don't think it would be fair for me to present it right now, but it's an area that I'm watching closely. And I even put a tweet out. I had even had a media member kind of take a shot at me for it, which is hilarious considering they had no idea what I was talking about. And I just put on there, it was the Dallas Cowboy game. Bookmark this tweet. Big night for the Raiders. And I'm going to come back and talk about that tweet eventually, not now. And but I wanted everyone to know that I put something out there, and I'm going to wait and see how it goes. I'm going to watch how AP expertly moves around it, or how he has to, you know, this concern. When I say it, don't try to read into it. But we'll talk about it. And I have learned I believe in people like AP. They're genuine, they're real, they're honest, they're forthright. He's a man of integrity. It's not a character issue with him at all, but I think he'll deal with it, and I think it'll be something that will come back to be, hey, look at how he handled this. This is a great example of him. So I'm not going to address it now, but that's a good question, Johnny. Next one comes from Jeff A. Why am I, meaning Hondo, more optimistic than Vegas and other media? First of all, I don't give a rat's butt what another media member reports. You people keep asking me to comment on their reports. I don't care. I don't care. There are a lot of good reporters. And if you want to go with another one, that's absolutely your right. But I could name you multiple things where I disagreed with the media on and I was right. So please, I'm going to tell my staff moving forward, any more emails asking for comments on other media, I'm not making it, and I'm not going to make one here. All I can tell you is I'm at every practice, and of this entire preseason, I saw what I saw. Nothing for me to get into. Now, as far as Vegas, that's a very good question. In my 4 years, this is my fifth year, but in my previous 4 years, I beat Vegas 3 of the 4 years. And only once did I not, and it was a terrible prediction, and I got it horrifically wrong. Horrifically wrong. Very, very bad. And I admit that, and I don't change it. Vegas, though, doesn't predict what they think the Raiders are going to do. Remember, they try to put the line where it gets people to bet. Many of you, if you're college football fans, are very familiar with Phil Steele's College Football Preview magazine. Phil is a dear friend of mine, not a good friend, a genuine dear friend. I love Phil Steele with all of my heart. Um, and I think he would reciprocate those same feelings. We're very close. Years ago on my television show, I asked Phil about his predictions. How do you do his predictions? And he talked about my job as a betting guy is to bet the lines of winning. He said, but when Vegas puts the odds out, it's not because they think this team's going to win or that team's going to lose. It's where they think they have to put the line for people to vote. So I don't mind judging Vegas because they're not really picking winners and losers. I mean, I know they give the over under, but on what they think a win total will be, but that's to get people to vote and to hedge their money. So, but other media, I have no clue. Now, I will address this. I have found media. Now, one thing you need to know about media, and this may surprise you, is that you get more clicks when a team is winning and prospering and kicking butt. Excuse me, you get less kicks when things are going good, and a ton more clicks when everything's going bad. Whew, it's not even close. I mean, it is exponentially bigger, much bigger. And what you need to understand about that, because this is super important, but what you need to understand about that is so there's a lot of media that, okay, they're told you got to get X amount of clicks. Well, what's to get more clicks? Negative. I'm not saying every negative piece by the media is that, but I know for a fact there's a lot of them. I've told this story many times, and I could have told it 100 ways from Tuesday because I've heard it many times. But I'm in a press box at a Major League Baseball stadium. By the way, they're not a sponsor, but Wild Bill's Diet Root Beer. Woo! Shoot this thing. Really good. No carbs. Great. Not a sponsor, but I love it. Thank you to my wife. I'm at a Major League Baseball press box, and a very, very, very famous media member, super famous. I would guess 95% of our audience would know who this person was. Turned and said, all right, boys, give me something just stupid and preposterous and negative that all these idiots will click on. I remember that night after leaving the game, he and I were going down the press box elevator together. And I looked at him and said, I want you to know something. I will never talk about you behind your back. That's not the way I roll. But I used to genuinely, I didn't always agree, but I genuinely liked what you did. And tonight, I literally don't respect you. I said, our bosses are the fans. How dare you do that to those people? They don't deserve that. And I'm not going to tell you it is publicly. I'm not trying to embarrass anybody, but there's a lot of people that just know negativity sells. Negativity sells. It just does. Isn't it amazing? You can watch politicians, all their commercials do is rip each other. I would just like one politician to make a commercial saying something positive about, just talk about them. If your whole commercial is about the person you're running against, stupid to me. Stupid. And I'm just going to tell you, though, that I don't try to be a cheerleader, but I also don't try to be a sky is falling guy. I believe this. In fact, I was talking to a couple of Raiders about it the other day, but they brought up not this subject, but another subject up with me and a couple of players. I think there were three of us there talking. And I took the route years ago, which is the route that journalism used to take, which is I want to be completely fair. I want to do my job thorough. And at the end of the day, people may not like me or I may not always like my takes or appreciate my takes, but they'll always be able to say, Hondo Carpenter was fair with my team. I have written very difficult things about players and had them write me letters, emails, texts, come up to me, say, I really appreciate the fact that when you have been critical of me, you have always been fair. I had a Raider this year say to me, I want you to know I know you've been hard on me, but it means the world to me that every time you mention that you think I'm a good person. You've never made it personal to me, and I want you to know I respect you for that. You know, I think that's important. I think it's important to be fair. Just because a football player makes a mistake doesn't mean they're a bad human being. It just means they made a bad football play. Some guys are bad players. Some guys are just not good players. It's okay. It's not the end of the world. I'll give you a quick example. So I've been friends with Brian Hoyer for years. I mean, I was at his grandma's funeral. He taught my son how to throw a football in his parents' backyard. Very close to him, his parents, all of his family. And when Brian got signed, I said why he was brought in to be almost like a quarterback coach, to bring along Aiden, to be there in a short-term situation to fill in for Jimmy because he understood the system until Aiden was ready. And when Jimmy was failing, I made the comment the Raiders need to go with Aiden. And people are like, why would you not say your buddy Brian? Because I don't think Brian could have led at that point in his career a franchise. Don't think he was a franchise quarterback. Do I love Brian? Of course, love him dearly. Do I think his wife and children are precious people? I do. And his mom and dad, both brothers, his sister, I learned, her husband, his nieces and his nieces and of course, I love them. But it doesn't mean that my job is to go up and say, "Oh, Brian can do this." I think we saw him when he did start. He couldn't. He couldn't. So see, I don't come from it from a negative standpoint. I just come at it from a very realistic standpoint. So when you say, "How come you're more optimistic than other people?" Maybe some people are genuinely think it's negative, and I think there are some really genuinely good people who cover the Raiders. Maybe they come at life from a negative standpoint. And so they just see everything negatively. I don't. I come at life, the glass is half full. Every day I wake up, I'm blessed. I have a wonderful family, a great job, work for a great company. I serve a God who's a God of grace, live in an amazing country. You're done right. I wake up with my attitude positive. This is the day. I'm excited about today. I'm looking forward to waking up and it's tomorrow. I was raised by a dad that taught his sons, everybody in your life is going to be, oh, it's Monday, it sucks. You get up saying, thank God it's Monday. Because when you go to work and everybody else is dragging, you're going to be humping and bumping. More money will be made on Mondays than any day of the week because it's still kind of an off day for your competitors. So my dad trained his kids to think about Monday, and I have mine. Mondays is a good day. Mondays is a great day. It's a good day. That's just my outlook on life. I look at things from a different perspective. When it's time to be negative, I'm negative. Any of y'all who are old timers, OGs, been watching this podcast, you know what happened last year when Josh McDaniels hit his 20th game. It was like, oh dear God. I even had somebody in the organization say, woo, the literal question me, boy, did Josh pitch in your Wheaties or what? And I said, what are you talking about? Man, you're going after him a little tough. I said, tough? He's had 20 games. Oh, yeah, you're right. And so, anyways, that's why, again, not addressing other media, but the Vegas thing for sure. Their job isn't trying to tell you what they're trying to move betting lines. All right, let's get to the next one. This one comes from my buddy Alessandro C. from Italy. He says, he wanted to know, do I think the QB battle hurt the QBs? Ooh, that's a good question. No, but I still think it's a good question, Alessandro, and I'll tell you why. If you have quarterbacks that a quarterback battle bothers, you know the game's gonna. You know the game's gonna. I don't think it bothered him in the least bit. I think there were other reasons. I'll get into that in another question in a minute. Next one comes from Dan L. Hondo, you say that the Raiders have a good system under Getsy, and they do. Good players around the quarterbacks. I agree. Could the problem be quarterback coaching? This is a great question. Again, I'm trying to remember. Oh, this is from Dan L. This is a great question. I don't think it's coaching. I really sincerely don't. I want to go back and I want to read the next email, and then I'm going to answer both of your questions in totality. It comes from Roxy S. Roxy S says, Dear Hondo, I heard you on Sirius FM after church on Sunday, and it was amazing. You were so good. I appreciate you putting the host in his place when he said that you said both quarterbacks had a terrible offseason. And you told him, quote, I never said terrible. I said disappointing, unquote. Thought it was great. I wish you could get more into the QB battle and why you think it happened the way it did. Okay, so I'm going to answer both your questions, Roxy and Dan. I love Luke Getsy's system that I've seen all of camp. I understand that you haven't. I get that. 100% get that. And if I was you, I'd be, unless it's a media person I trust, I'd be skeptical too. Number one. Number two, I love the personnel. Love it. I love the wide receiver room. I love the tight end room. I love the running back room. I really like the offensive line. There is enough here for a quarterback to step in with that defense and win big. If the Raiders had a superstar quarterback, I absolutely 110% believe. Now, there's a difference between a good quarterback and a superstar. If they had a superstar quarterback, an Aaron Rodgers type, a Tom Brady type, Patrick Mahomes type, a Joe Burrow type, a Josh Allen type. There are a few. There's a few of them. I think they would absolutely be competing at the highest level. There's just that many weapons. Plus, superstar quarterbacks know how to do things that others don't. And I think that's important. But I digress. Both quarterbacks, and this can even touch into the question I was asked earlier about why are you more optimistic? The Raiders hope Brock Bowers can do a lot of amazing things in this draft. Same with DJ Glaze, Tommy freaking Eichenberg, MJ Devonshire, Dylan Labe. I can go on and on and on and on. But in every one of those draft picks, they have no idea. They're only hoping because none of those draft picks have a proven track record of success in the National Football League. Okay? There's no hope with Aiden. You know he can do it in this league. His last 5 games, 9 touchdowns, 1 interception. You know what Aiden can do. Now, He has a huge ceiling, potentially, but you don't know what his ceiling is. You know what his floor is. Minnesota game. But you don't know what his ceiling is. Gardner Minshew. He's had great success in the National Football League. You're not hoping that Gardner can do something he's never done. See, this is where sometimes the doom and gloom, I don't understand it. My son, Shane, he's a sophomore in college. I know he can do math. He was in AP math all the way through high school. He's a math brain, gets it from his mother. Not me. My son, Dexter, I hope he's going to do good in math, but he's 2. So I have hope for Dexter, expectation for Shane. Same principle here. I have expectations. I know everyone is like, oh my God, the sky's falling. The Raider quarterback situation has been this, this, and this. I'm going to tell you what, the Raider quarterback situation is disappointing, but not anywhere near like everyone is trying to paint, in my opinion. But I'm not a fan. My job is to be an analyst and be reasonable. I have to live in Realville. And Realville tells me you have 2 men that you were expecting. Now, they thought both men would come in and competing with all this talent around them. They were both going to step their game up a level. They did not. Period. I know Aiden really well, and I'm developing a good relationship with Gardner. But I know Aiden well. And I know Aiden will tell you, didn't play to the standard that I had hoped. I believe Gardner would say the same thing. I don't know him as good as Aiden, but I'm getting there. And I do believe that Gardner would tell you the exact same thing. He gave it all, though. Both guys worked hard. Neither guy was lazy. Neither guy only gave half effort. None of that went on. If you're a Raider, you got 2 guys with a proven track record and 2 men with a great work ethic. Okay, I expect hard work to win. And when you've already proven to me you can do it, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Maxx Crosby last year, the last several games, was not Maxx Crosby, but he was playing with potentially putting his life on the line. Were any of us worried he was going to come back and not be even better? Not if you're reasonable. Why? Because you understood why it was disappointing the end of the year. But he also had shown you a work ethic. You are totally reasonable if you say Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell were disappointing in the preseason. 100% correct. But to call them trash? No. Now, I'm going to say this. I was asked recently, how would you describe the Raider quarterback play in preseason? And I said, quote, it looked like the Raiders had 2 backup quarterbacks, unquote. That's what I said. I'm using quotes around my own words. Stupid. Sorry. I did say that. And I stand by it. That's what they looked like. But they also have both looked like very quality starting quarterbacks in the NFL. We have that to go on as a future performance being indicative, a past performance being indicative of a future expectation. Disappointing? Sure. Do they both have something to prove? You betcha. You betcha. But I hope that answers your question. No, I don't think it's quarterback play. Quarterback coaching. It could be. If neither guy improves as the season goes on, then I think you absolutely have to look at coaching because both men have done it previous. But I don't think it's the case now. I really don't. And let me just say this to you. I really like the creativity of the Luke Getsy offense. I do. It's exactly the offense that Aaron Rodgers won a Super Bowl in, and they were so successful for many years. I really, really like it a lot, and I think it's going to be really good. Last question comes in that I'm going to get to tonight. Again, I thought it was another great one. I want to address it. Hondo, you have mentioned about potential of even an Aaron Rodgers coming here next year. What would make you think that? Well, there are several reasons. Luke Getzey's here. He's very close to Luke. He's very close to Joe Philbin and very close to Davante Adams. On a team where if you put Aaron Rodgers on the Raiders today, I not only think you don't expect a playoffs, I think you're looking at them potentially being a massive contender. A massive contender. This team already beat the Chiefs with very little offense. You've added Brock Bowers. You've watched a year of maturity from Trey Tucker, DJ Turner, Zamir White, Alexander Mattison. So, yeah, I think it's an absolute. Do I think it's a probability? No. Possibility? Yes. Yes, I do. So that's why. Plus, I've had a couple birdies from around the league allude to me that. Could you imagine this team? They go out. If both quarterbacks fail, which I'm telling you right now, I don't expect that, but they could. If both quarterbacks fail, they go draft a rookie, but they're not going to go back. They're going to stay competitive because that's what Mark Davis has said. Win now. Can you imagine? They go get an Aaron Rodgers to play for 1 or 2 years and go get a stud rookie. You never know, do you? Never know. But I'm going to tell you, I don't think it comes to that. I think Gardner or Aiden. I wasn't going to address this last one because I'm in a hurry. I'm up looking at the time, but I'm going to do one more. It comes to us from Vivian Y. Hondo, now that camp is over, did you have a preference going into camp of whether Aiden or Gardner would win it? Nope, didn't. I knew what the organization felt. I shared that with you. But no, I didn't. I think both quarterbacks you can win with based upon past performance being indicative of future expectations. But if they continue at the level they are now, no, I don't think the Raiders can win. All right, everybody, remember, keep your eyes out. Later this week, I'm not sure if it's going to be Thursday of this week or in 8 days on Monday of the first week, I'll give if there's any revamp, I'm going to go back over my season win-loss prediction and lay the stage for as we get ready to go to the Bolts. Listen, appreciate you. Got a very, very special show tomorrow you're not going to want to miss. From all of us to you, God bless you. I also want to address one other area. For those of you that are a member of this podcast, the Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast with Hondo Carpenter, this YouTube page, please make sure you watch the video that says for members only. Please make sure you watch that. I need to hear from you. There's a special thing. If you're not a member, nothing changes for you. You're still going to get the podcast every day. Nothing's being taken from you. But some people have just voluntarily decided to become members, and it's grown. And I want to do something extra for them. So there's no pressure. You do not have to become a member. If you do, it's $4.99 a month. But if you do, there's something extra special. It's going to happen 24 times a year. And look forward to having you all participate. So if you're a member, please watch that video and follow all the expectations. And if you're not, no pressure, nothing changes for you. God bless you, everybody. Man, only one more Sunday till we're full scale into football. I hope you got to enjoy your family today. I sure did mine. Big shout out to my family. I love them dearly. Appreciate y'all. Have a good day. Again, God bless you.